Welcome to another My Thoughts video. This is probably like my fifth or sixth attempt at making this because I keep either screwing up or, in one case, I had a 50-minute video which I was nearly at the point of posting to YouTube. Alas, the audio was fucked up. Somehow I managed to double record my audio. So throughout the video, at certain points, it's very kind of echoey, very tinny sounding, and it was crap, and I didn't want to post that. So scrapped it, redoing it. Here we go. My thoughts on Rise of Ronin. Now I did go on for almost an hour about it before. Don't think I had the energy to do that again. I'd rather be a little bit more precise with what I'm saying anyways. But there are a couple things I wanted to go through. I definitely feel like this game got a really bad shake at the very beginning because, you know, with big games like this, it's hard to truly get a feel for them without spending a lot of time in them. And then when you get these reviewers who are just trying to, you know, gun through, get the majority, you know, see their checklist, you know, okay, I saw the story, I got good gameplay, I saw this feature, and I saw this system, and okay, I'm gonna give my review. And that's fine for the most part. But I always like to kind of just riff right as I beat a game, give you my direct thoughts, my, you know, initial impressions, and all that kind of stuff right as I finish a game. And I feel like that's probably like the most true to form, like realistic, honest way to review games, even though I'm not actually calling them reviews. I just say it's my thoughts because that's truly all it is. That's what any review is. There is no concrete way to do a review process without any form of bias. When I do these videos, I always do 2 ratings or 2 numbers out of 10 because I do my personal score, and then I do what I believe is the most unbiased, generalized, basic kind of a score. You know, for more average gamers who don't necessarily have experience with the developer already or the genre, maybe you only buy 1 to 5 games a year, that kind of thing. So I like to just word vomit all of my thoughts, and then at the end I like to kind of tie it up in a neat little bow and give you 2 scores. So let's get to it. Rise of Ronin. Why was it crapped on at the beginning? The graphics. Right off the rip, the graphics of this game, I will admit they're not the most stellar thing in the world, but they are fucking phenomenal. Like right now, I'm in an entertainment district, and you've got the little, you know, cherry blossoms floating around. You've got like the actual like colors of everything over. I'm kind of colorblind, so I'm not going to start listing off the colors, but you can see them. I can see them. I'm just not sure which ones they are. So, but fact is, they are quite gorgeous, very, very atmospheric. So there's a lot of places in this game that provide a lot of colors. Matter of fact, even at nighttime, this game really pops. Especially when you're in like some of the more populated areas and they've got like all the lanterns and everything going. Yeah, the lighting in the sky doesn't change too much because honestly it still looks kind of like daytime, but all the lanterns being on, all that kind of stuff, very, very cool. And I'm only in like a very small section of the town. The whole city is relatively big, and then the entire map is quite big on top of that. Now you might be seeing there's a lot of stuff I have left to do. Once you reach the post game, you unlock the midnight difficulty, which essentially resets a lot of the combat encounters, or I think all of them. Throughout all the chapters and everything like that, and you can essentially go back to any point in the game and like redo missions and stuff like that. Matter of fact, that's exactly what I did, so I was able to go and cop this that I'm covering right now, the Platinum Trophy. I did Platinum this game. I love this game. I thought it was fantastic, and it really spoke to me, and I feel like, again, this game got a really bad rap at the beginning because of a couple things, graphics being one of them. Yes, sure, if I was to zoom in very close on certain like assets, you know, it doesn't look too good. I'll give you that. Like if we get really close to this wood wall right here, whoop, wrong way. Okay, if I could point to this wall right here to my left, whatever. This wall right here, if you're looking closely, you can actually sort of see the pixels, and like you can see like the blurry textures. But when you're running through a place like this, I ain't noticing any of that shit. All I'm seeing are just the tons and tons of NPCs making this world feel lived in. I'm noticing all the different like lighting and, you know, atmospheric stuff. I just really do enjoy like the look and feel. I think they nailed the atmosphere for this game. I think it is a whole vibe. And whereas I guess I'll use this as a transition into like the map and the world. Whereas they do a really good job at that immersion, the you know, having NPCs around, you know, having stuff, the leaves falling, the wind gently breathe, or the branches gently moving in the breeze, all that kind of stuff. You know, it's really good, but at the same time, there's not a lot compelling you to just explore on the map. You see a lot of these symbols here, and admittedly, aside from these symbols, there's not much left on the map to explore and to interact with. Like everything in between these 2 points, or let's just say like this point to this point, there's literally nothing to do in between them except for hit this checkpoint and grab that chest. There's no random, like, there might be occasionally a random couple enemies milling about. You might find a random treasure chest here and there, but really there's not a lot. So as far as the world goes, it looks great, sounds great, very atmospheric. Holy crap, I could spend a lot of time in the photo mode. It's just visually very appealing to me, but I'll admit it's not the best graphics in the world. It's not the most high fidelity, it's not the highest like pixel count. That's just what it is. And for me, that really isn't even a big deal. I feel like as long as it reaches a certain level of like graphic fidelity, I'm over the moon, right? Anything better than that is just cherry on top. But the world, albeit a little lackluster, it still was very immersive and a lot of fun to be in. But that fun really came primarily from one source. That would be the combat. The combat in this is very much a Souls-like combat system. I'll see if I can't go get into a tussle here to explain while we do this. But there is actually relatively good stealth implemented into this. I wish they would have gone a little bit deeper, because ultimately the stealth abilities do kind of like, it's like, alright, as long as you're hidden, you can assassinate people, and that's about it. There isn't like a lot of stuff to like stay hidden, so to speak. There's like 1 or 2 possible ways to really distract anybody. So the stealth is mostly just what you see right here. Creeping around, making sure that those meters don't, you know, fully build up so that way we don't get caught by the bad guys. Boom. So that's one of the 2 combat avenues. The other one, we'll start by assassinating, give him some crit damage. It's just the actual combat itself. Now there are sometimes barrels to do like that, flip them around, grab it and throw it. Other times enemies will get to stagger states and you can actually throw them around too. There's other items like these pills here that give you minor buffs. Okay, I totally fucked that up. You can parry literally every move so long as you get the timing right, which I'm not doing, but I'm trying. There's 1, there's another, there's 3, and I parried his whole combo. So you saw how he staggered at the end right there? If you parry their whole combo successfully, you do massive stagger damage. And they've got the 2 bars of health. It's very similar to the Neo system. The key is essentially your stamina. And once that's depleted, you get into a vulnerable state. I'm going to try right here. See how he had that red circle? I hit the button too quick because I'm just that good. Once they get into a staggered state, then you can unleash a really powerful critical move on them. And the further into the game you get, there are a lot of different combat styles. This is actually probably my favorite part about the combat itself, is even though you've got dual swords, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different stances. And the stances essentially come down to a rock, paper, scissors system. That's really all it is. You know, one stance is going to be better than another stance, but worse than the other stance. And then that's just going to go the whole way through. But that really only comes down to damage. The move sets are always interchangeable. You're always going to have like one specific move that comes with it, which for this one, actually, technically, there's 3 specific moves. So R1 plus square, triangle, and X, all 3 of these are just set, but I can kind of customize it and put whatever I want for R1 plus circle. So I've got all these different abilities, which come from various things, mostly bonding relationships. So I'll just touch on that really quick, not too deep. In this game, there is a relationship system. You do meet a bunch of different characters, and you do have the ability to further your relationship with them. If you notice on the right side of your screen, I'm going to try to get this right for your orientation. The right side of the screen, we've got all of these bond bonuses. So if you raise the level of the bond high enough, you get these things. And if you notice right here, in every single tier for Ryoma here, you've actually got a different stance, essentially level. So if you're acquainted with him, you unlock it at the novice stance. If you get friendly with him, it goes up to the intermediate, so on and so forth. And that is pretty much the rule of thumb for a lot of characters. Some characters don't actually give you any sort of combat stuff. Like here's a good point right here. Katsu, he's just equipment, skill points, and that's really about it. But all these characters do have a lot of cool dialogue. Shout out to Yasusuke and Manabe. Where is he? These 2 guys are Ninja Gaiden references, like literally living references. They do say things too. And yeah, that's really about it. So if you go through, you get the different styles, you get the different moves. That really does help kind of change up the combat. There are a good amount of different weapons and stuff, so the variety in combat, I never got bored of. As a matter of fact, I put about 130 something hours into this game, and I have primarily used like 4 weapons. So yeah, paired swords, a spear, and then katana and unarmed, and a greatsword. Like those are really the 5 that I used. I hadn't really used the oxtail blade, the odachi, a saber, the polearm. The one I was most excited to use that I never used was the bayonet. Like there's a ton of really cool games in here. Abilities, styles, weapons, that kind of a thing. But you see, like there's different like moves you can assign to the stance. So whenever I'm in Mumyo Ryo stance, I now have the Northern Lights 2 ability. But say I wanted the Keihatai style, or Kihotai, whatever the fuck it's called, I can also put it on that too. Or maybe I don't like that move. Maybe I want Heaven's Grace instead. I can do that. So there is some, customizability with that. So you can really kind of fine-tune your combat experience to really focus around the weapons and abilities you want. And that's gonna kind of lead me into my next thing. Oh, one other thing I'll say about combat and bonds. Literally everybody in this game you're gonna fight at one point or another, either in training, a story, a mission. Most of the time it's like not a serious fight. It's like that's just how they talk. It's weird. But yeah, so there's a lot of fighting in this. But the loot system is like, I feel like they're in the right direction, but not the best execution. And let me explain why. So a lot of the critique on this game at the beginning came from its loot. A lot of people said it was excessive loot. I kind of droned on about this for way too long in my initial review. So I'm going to try to be a little bit more concise with this. So there are a lot of comparisons with this game and games like Diablo as far as the loot goes. There's a lot of loot in this game. As a matter of fact, if you look right now, this is just what I have on me, not even counting all the stuff I have in my storage. So you do get a good amount of constant loot. But admittedly, a lot of it does feel almost pointless because uh, a lot of the abilities don't, like right here. This is a great example. If you look, ranged cowering effect is only 0.7%. Sometimes gear will just have absolute garbage abilities, and Team Ninja is guilty of doing this in Neo and other games as well. But I do wholeheartedly feel that they have a good balance in place with this system, because even though it is a kind of pain in the ass for like management purposes, there are a lot of systems in place in the game that help you manage copious amounts of loot, and it's actually not that bad. I genuinely believe any kind of overload or just like unmanageable feeling you might get with this inventory is all self-inflicted. The game gives you plenty of ways to select multiple items, to lock items so you don't accidentally select them. You can sell just in bulk, you can disassemble in bulk, all that kind of stuff. And those are your typical, RPG jargon, sell, disassemble, that kind of thing. However, this game also does a really cool thing called bond transfers. So essentially, what you do is you use a currency or a item, so to speak, crafting item, and you can take any of these abilities from one piece of gear and plop it right onto another. So you see how there's an open spot at the bottom here? It's not letting me select it, but there is an open slot here, which means it has room for one more ability. So what I could do is say I wanted the attack from this one. Oh, also, these are not movable as far as I'm aware. The set bonuses are the only abilities that you can't transfer. Let's say I wanted this attack bonus. You literally just take this attack bonus, swap it over to here, and boom. It would destroy the initial gear the bonus is coming from, but it would buff the gear that the bonus is going to. So, win-win. Gives you some more stuff to do, and it also helps like with the whole like, oh, I don't want to lose my really good gear kind of thing. It's like, oh, I just finally got something that was really good, and now it's all crap again. Matter of fact, I'm gonna switch back to my luck build because I had so much gear just with 4 pieces of luck boosting stuff, I guess. And I will admit, this is one of like 2 things I did that I felt had any sort of what you call it, like noticeable impact, I guess. The oh my god, there's a bunch of ones with luck. 74, 75 for sure, and then that one. Okay. Luck is like really the only thing I noticed, because once I put this on, I was getting a lot of exquisite level gear, pretty consistently. So, but that was a long roundabout way of me getting distracted. Let me get to the actual point I'm trying to make here. The gear system in this, though there are a lot of abilities, admittedly, they don't feel very impactful. Rarely do you actually put gear on having abilities on it that feel anything like there's any actual like substance in combat. Like, you might have like a 10-20% buff in one or the other avenue. Some of that's really hard to actually even notice, personally. Not saying it doesn't have an effect, not saying it's useless, but ultimately for me, I didn't get a lot of feedback out of that. So with the gear system, I was just kind of going for set bonuses and whatever had the highest armor value. That's really all I cared about. That kind of goes the same with the weapons. As a matter of fact, I am in the post game, and because I'm a min-maxer, I literally only have training weapons equipped right now. I have really shitty garbage weapons. And they're actually non-lethal. So I'm not even killing most of the people I've been fighting. I've just been doing a pacifist run. Not to say I don't have a ton of really good weapons. the spear is almost 200 points better than the spear I currently have equipped. So the weapons do seem to make a bit of a difference, in that, you know, the higher the number, the harder they're going to hit. But other than, you know, that's really the only thing that ever feels like it comes through. I got a new big weapon. Okay, I do see a little bit more damage coming off. But other than that, it's like, okay, I've got like 20% burn resistance, but yet I still get caught on fire and it still sucks. Poison resistance, I still get poison, it still sucks. Key reduction, you know, I am able to do maybe one extra move before hitting complete exhaustion. It's negligible, not really ideal, but I do feel like the game has plenty of stuff in place to make this copious amounts of loot that you get manageable. I don't feel like it was really overdone at all. The loot has a lot of good options. It's, you know, you can use it as a gift for people, you can use it as materials, you sell it, you can upgrade them, you can use them. This kind of does double down as like upgrade, but you can do the whole bond transferring thing, so you can take abilities from stuff and swap it around. So there's some things to do there, and it is, I guess it's passable. I'm not going to say it's like a really good system, because it's not, but it's not shit either. Like, it was enjoyable. I didn't find it to be, you know, pointless or aggravating, really. Just a little underwhelming. We'll go with that. So yeah, I talked about the combat, I've talked about the map. Let's talk about the story. I'm not gonna go too crazy with the story here in terms of detail, but just be warned, minor spoilers. Oh, I was gonna say, not kill you. But yeah, so story's all right. It has a relatively interesting kind of overarching plot, but you get caught up with a bunch of little things along the way, and ultimately I just didn't feel very connected to the story. There was one or two bits that I liked. There were some really cool characters, like I genuinely enjoyed the conversations with them and stuff, and the missions with them, but ultimately the story was just really a vessel for combat. A lot of the things didn't make sense. I feel a lot of the like conflict in the game could have been resolved if people just actually stopped for a second and talked, because every faction in this game, minus one, literally all want the same thing. They just disagree on how to do it, and it's really irritating, because it's like you've got people killing themselves in this game, guys, you know, over their beliefs of certain things, and it's just like, bro, like, come on now. Like, you didn't need to, homie didn't need to like off himself in some weird righteous thing. Like, I get it, I understand why, but it's just like, holy shit, so many things could have been avoided had people just been a little bit more rational and calm with their thinking. And there's no bad guys. Spoilers, huge spoiler, there's zero bad guys. Literally every person has a redemption arc, every single one. Even there's like 2 or 3 people that you're like, for sure, I can hate this person, like they suck, and they even become fucking romance options. So literally zero bad guys, like literally zero. Depending on the choices you make and the people you follow up with, like you can genuinely befriend and be homies with everyone on every side. It's really jarring, and I feel like the game kind of loses the plot towards the end a little bit. One thing I did notice is how, because of the variety of things that you can do or not do, there's a little discrepancy. Without getting too heavy in it, there's a character who potentially can die, and there's a character who is very close with that character. Now, I'm not exactly sure, but I went through a scenario where that character almost died, but didn't. They were fine. However, the character that was close to them from that point onward referred to them as if they had died, and that was really like kind of jarring, because especially at one point they were literally in the same house as each other, just on the other side of it. So I went and talked to one person, and then I went and talked to the next person. That next person's like, yeah, I definitely don't want to end up like them. What? They're standing right there, they're fine. That aside, not really a big deal. The missions were all really fun. The combat, again, was really engaging. I just had so much fun with the combat. A little biased because I do really like Souls games. Souls-like combat is like by far and away my favorite form of combat. Like the best one to me is probably Dark Souls 3. Yeah, I like Dark Souls 3 a lot. I feel like it really just solidified. Actually, Neo 1 is also really good too. In terms of combat, it's so hard to like pick a favorite. But regardless, Souls combat is my jam. This game definitely simplified it a little bit compared to like Neo and Wolong, but it is still really deep, really versatile. There's a lot of things to unlock and grind, and different ways to approach combat scenarios. There's cool abilities that you can learn, and once you really get like good with the focus and stuff in this game, you can literally be invincible against anybody. Be invincible? That's not a word. Be invincible against anybody. The parry system in this game is very easy to abuse. It really kind of comes down to, if you are good at parry timing, there's nothing you can't do in this game. If you got parrying down, this game will be a piece of cake. It is definitely not balanced in that the parry system is the difficulty. If you can't parry, this game's gonna be hard as fuck. Not gonna lie. If you don't parry, or you play these games and just are adamant about not throwing in like parries or anything like that, I'm gonna block and then I'm gonna swing when I can. This game is gonna be a bit of a challenge. But like I said, if you can parry, cakewalk, easy peasy. So the story, it was kind of meh for me. It was passable at best. The story really didn't make a lot of sense. I feel like a lot of it was pointless and stupid. There was no bad guys. Literally everybody you fight became your friend, and even though they were your friend, you still fought them again. And it's just kind of ridiculous. There's a faction choice in the game. My girlfriend's also playing this with me. This is also co-op. Certain missions you can actually invite other players to come along with you on, and I found that to be a lot of fun. My girlfriend and I played a few missions together, and it was really cool. The system, like, there's no lag, there's no anything like that. The matchmaking and server issues, or I should say lack thereof, was actually a huge bonus. If you like the Souls likes and you like those kind of games, but kind of sucks because you never really get like a dedicated multiplayer, this game will definitely help with that. Admittedly, I think it's kind of lame that it relegates the multiplayer to specifically in missions, and once that mission is done, the person's like immediately kicked out by the game. But it's still fun. It's a nice addition, and it really does make a game that in every way feels 100% single player a multiplayer game. And it works great. The combat with another person in there doesn't really feel much different. If anything, it's a bit easier. But yeah, it was really, really cool. So even though I wasn't too invested in, what I was doing, like lore-wise, I was invested in what I was doing, like physically, like the gameplay, the moment-to-moment stuff. All really good. So, talked about the map, talked about the combat, talked about the story, characters, the loot, like the lack thereof in builds and stuff like that. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to mention, this kind of goes back to combat. The camera is the hardest enemy in the game. I swear to God. Anytime you're in a close quarters, like a room, a building, your shack or something like that, and you're doing combat, oh my God, the camera sucks. There were so many times where I was up against a wall or in a corner and couldn't tell because the camera has like an effect where it will sort of go through walls and then make them invisible, but it won't like go too far, so it still has like this press up effect, but it's just really confusing. However, the inverse of that, anywhere else, the camera's actually really great. And one thing I really like to give this credit on, the camera especially, is in combat. With games like this, when you can do like more cinematic moves, like full on, like I press a button and you do a series of things, sometimes the camera shifting around to capture those moves can be a bit jarring. when it, you know, snaps back to over your shoulder, first person, whatever the game might be. You know, after that move is said and done, jumping around with the camera angles is a little too much. But I feel like this game did it perfectly. You would get the really cool cinematic, you know, cutscene angle for the, you know, execution or whatever, but then the camera would instantly snap back into place in a very like natural way, and the combat would just flow right into the next thing. So I definitely feel like this game had a lot to offer. If you're a fan of like Souls-like combat, if you're a lore hound, there's really not much to go on here. I feel like I only enjoyed it to the level I did because I just do like Japanese history. So it was cool to see a lot of like the historical figures and stuff like that from back then. Ryoma Sakamoto, Hajime Saito, Kondo, like a lot of these names and stuff I do have some sort of familiarity with, either through other games, shows, or actual just straight up historical knowledge. When I got into Like a Dragon Ishin, I just binged Japanese history documentaries. I was like really into it, and I really wanted to kind of get as much of like an understanding of the time period as I could. So when I'm playing a game that has no connection to other games, I'm still able to be like, oh hey, that thing is referencing this. Oh hey, that's referencing that. Or oh hey, this is their take on this event. And I love shit like that. So I feel like this game will definitely lend itself better to people like me, in that if you like historical stuff, Japanese history, that kind of a thing, Japanese culture, the game will be pretty enjoyable. Again, the world will be very immersive. It's fun to walk around in and just see how NPCs actually feel like they're living their lives and doing stuff. But it is a little lackluster in like the exploration side. There's markers telling you where everything is, so you don't really have to explore and find things out too much on your own. But there is some like discovering. When you get into a new area, not everything's going to be visible, so you do have to find a couple things on your own. Although usually my rule of thumb is I look for the big smokestacks. That's usually a public order or bandit camp essentially to clear out. In doing that, you usually check off one or two of the boxes for the area, because there's usually like a treasure chest or a bounty there. And then doing enough things in an area will then reveal more things. And so that was kind of rinse repeat. Go find a smokestack, clear that out, get enough rep to unlock more stuff, and then I would just follow the map markers, and that's really about it. Now, I didn't have to do that, but that's kind of my gamer min-max logic that I fell into, and that's how I went with it. So, but yeah, enough rambling. Let's get to my actual final thoughts on this. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I always like to do 2 scores. So we're going to start off with my score, because I tend to be a little bit more favorable towards games, especially if I get to the point where I'm making a review on them. Usually means I liked them enough to finish them. So I rarely will ever give anything that I have finished and rolled credits on, let alone platinumed, a bad score. But I'm going to give this one a 8 out of 10. Ultimately, I had a lot of fun with the combat. I am forcing myself not to go through right now and just clear out all the extra, bandit camps and stuff, because there's literally no point in doing that other than just leveling up my abilities. But there's no point in doing that because I've already beaten the game. So there's no like secret boss or anything like that to fight on a harder difficulty or anything. So it's kind of pointless. But that does go to show how good the gameplay loop is. I want to play more of it, even though I finished it, just because I really enjoy the combat. And I think if you're a Souls fan, I think if you like those kind of like Souls-like combat systems, I think you're going to have a lot to like here. They kind of had, this is more like Elden Ring than I would say Ghost of Tsushima. Because even though, yeah, it's, open world Japan, Ghost of Tsushima really did lean in on that like cinematic samurai combat, and also like the whole stealth assassination stuff way more than this game did. So the combat in that felt a little more arcadey, whereas this one is way more deliberate, way more Souls-like. And that's where a lot of my joy came with this. On top of that, I really liked the aesthetic, the lighting, and all that kind of stuff, the environments. I thought that was all really good, and I really liked some of the characters too. So for me, I'm going to give this game an 8 out of 10. Thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. I genuinely feel like if you're a Souls-like fan, you got to give this at least a try. But it's hard for me to recommend this even at full price, with as much as I did enjoy it. There's just some invisible factor that is hard for me to genuinely put my finger on. But I would say wait for a sale. I wouldn't say spend more than like $50 on it. I feel like at that price point, you're gonna get your money's worth, or at least be satisfied with the purchase. I feel like buying this game at full price is a little tricky, to be quite honest, because even I am a little on the like, did I waste my money or not side. I don't think so. Ultimately, I don't think so, because again, I did platinum it. Clearly, I enjoyed the game to a degree, and I got more than like 140 hours out of this, so I certainly got my money's worth. But having played this, I think that you're fine waiting for it to go on sale. I don't feel like you're missing some cultural movement where you have to get on top of it and play it right away. That being said, I do recommend playing it. I actually really, really enjoyed this. It was just sweet, sweet combat, just constantly. No sense needed. Just, all right, we're going to fight. Next story mission, all right, we're going to fight. Let's all just fucking fight. It's great. And you can, like, decide to spare and kill certain people, so it does have some variations as to where things can go and who gets involved, but for the most part it is all pretty much the same no matter what choices you do or don't pick. So for me, 8 out of 10. Now for the more generalized view, for the people that buy 1-5 games a year, maybe don't play a lot of Souls-likes, maybe you just thought, oh, it's a cool samurai action game, I want to give it a shot, and you have no idea what this is even like. This is probably like a 7 out of 10 game. As much as I said the graphics were fine to me, I made this point before, that is, I just gotta accept it. Graphics are a big deal. Most casual people like that are just passing, they're not gonna care about like immersion. They're not gonna care about the plot writing, so to speak. They're not gonna care about the combat system integration. They're not gonna care about the different stances and stuff. Like, does the graphics look cool? Oh yeah, it's a really pretty looking game. Oh wow, the combat looks really insane. Like, those moves are super cool. And that's really about it. Like, the looks and the gameplay. Those are the only two things that really casual people ever really notice. And I feel like this game has like a 7 out of 10 for both. The combat system maybe is more of like a 8 or 9, but ultimately I feel like to a casual person, this isn't going to really be that attention grabbing. You might lean towards it if you're more of a fan of like Japanese stuff and like a weeb culture, but this game just failed to really have a visual like identity right off the bat. Playing the game, I can definitely see the game's identity. It definitely does have a feel, a vibe, and like a particularness. However, that came after like 100 hours of playing the game. For a regular person who's looking at this game on the shelf at GameStop, bro, I don't know, man. I have a hard time believing anybody's going to spend full price on this on just a whim. However, I would recommend it, even if like you're not really into Souls-like games or anything like that. I do think this is a really good starting one. Whereas mentioned, the combat was a little bit simplified compared to other like Souls-like games. It is pretty in depth, so there is a lot to like learn and get used to, but it does kind of just fall down to rock paper scissors system. So you don't really have to worry too much about like, oh, am I gonna understand this or not? It's really quick and simple. So I think the biggest problem with this game is that it just fails to have any like huge like attention grabs. Like, some of the combat sequences are really flashy and really cool, and I'll give them that. That is definitely the highlight. That's what kicks ass, and this game does well at. But I feel like this game probably is just gonna be a flash in the pan. It's gonna fade into obscurity, and hopefully Team Ninja learned a lot from this, because I do feel like this was a great game from them. I feel like we are going through their learning process with them, because they started with Neo. Well, they didn't start with Neo, but since I've started being a big Team Ninja Souls-like fan, I did play Ninja Gaiden here and there back in the day. I actually had the collection that I've been meaning to pop in one of these days. But the real like start for me was with Neo. So I've seen them with Neo 1, 2, Wolong. There's another one that I'm just completely forgetting right now. And this, and there's there's a lot to love with these, and I feel like out of all of the combat systems, this one is probably the easiest to pick up and learn. And so, I think it's gonna land with the right people. But it's just hard for me to give it more than like a 7 out of 10 because, yeah, it's not the highest fidelity looking game in the world, I admit. And you know what? Yeah, the textures might be kind of ugly, but at the end of the day, that's all window dressing, right? We want gameplay above everything else, or at least that's technically what we should want with video games, is the gameplay. I know some people like myself will play a bad game that they're not enjoying to finish the story because they are enjoying the story. However, ultimately, video games are about the gameplay, and at least I can say that this game delivers in spades on that. If you wanted a Souls-like, or you just want a good action game where you can be a samurai and go kick people's ass, this is definitely the game for you. But I'm going to stop repeating myself and rambling on about nonsensical things. Rise of Ronin, what are your thoughts? Do you plan on playing it? Did my opinions sway you one way or the other? Do you even know that this game exists? It kind of came out right at the same time as Dragon's Dogma 2, so it definitely got overshadowed a bit. And it didn't feel like they had like the biggest marketing behind this game either. So definitely not the best marketing. However, if you find yourself in a store one day and you see this on the shelf for like 40 or less bucks, pick it up. Definitely can't go wrong. It's another great PlayStation exclusive to add to their library. And like I said, it gives me hope to see what we've got coming from this developer next. But yeah, guys, that's going to be it from me on this one. Check in with my Twitch channel. Follow me on TikTok. It's Guy in a Panda Suit on everything. I've got some more My Thoughts videos coming. We're gonna get back to streaming here soon. I've been saying that for the last couple of videos, but it's definitely about to happen. We've just been getting in the swing of things, and because I work in the weed industry, it's been a bit busy this last month because it is tomorrow is the weed holiday. Filming this on 4/19. But yeah, we're gonna get past all that and we're gonna get back to streaming soon. So if you haven't already, check out the Twitch, Guy in a Panda Suit. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you guys think about these videos, think about this game. Tell me all the thoughts, everything that you want down in the comments. Let's hang out, chit chat. But yeah, until next time, Panda out.